to this upcoming session, are there any issues that you feel are of importance? And I should have noted that you chair the Senate Judiciary Committee. So any bills in particular that you feel will occupy your committee's time in this next session?
Well, thank you. Yes. And I think we're coming into a short session. We just finished a long session, which is when we also do the budget. So we're all sort of hoping that people will keep the bills to the most important issues, but everyone believes their issue is important. But as Judiciary Chair, we also cover civil litigation, which is where we make new courts or decide if someone or an entity gets immunity, which we did through this past year with COVID. But right now, I don't see any really pressing issues. I personally am looking into some issues with respect to social media. And some other states have started to pass laws in terms of apps and their tracking abilities and censorship and things like that. But those are in the infancy stages. I'm still working with our team with the Senate policy and fiscal team, but then also I'll be working with LSA to see if it's possible and what sort of implementation would have to take place. Some of the states that have passed some of these laws too have also obviously encountered some lawsuits already. So that's not something I'm necessarily interested in pursuing. I'd kind of like to see how they play out in the court. So we'll see, but there's time.
Yeah, great. So shifting gears a little bit, in this past session, you had authored a resolution calling for an amendment to the U.S. Constitution to set the number of Supreme Court justices at 9. And we certainly support that effort, opposed to court packing. And that topic actually, as you're aware, is germane to our application for convention. So when we get to convention, that certainly is something we could consider. I wondered, are there other potential amendments that you would like to see discussed at an Article 5 amending convention?
Well, I think it's interesting since we've been in the Senate, we've passed the balanced budget amendment. And I think that is something, I'm not really sure if the horse is out of the barn already with the feds, their spending rates, how we could pull that back in, but that would certainly be something too I'd be interested in seeing us look at how that would work.
Yeah, I would say Indiana's balanced budget law is definitely a model to be considered at the federal level, requiring a 2/3 majority vote on any spending that's above revenue, and only for 1 year. And correct me if I'm wrong on the provisions of that amendment. And in fact, we held a simulated convention in 2017, attended by 4 of your colleagues, and that very same amendment came out of that simulated convention as one of the top priorities there. I would also ask now, I understand that the House and the Senate operate under a requirement that any bills that you consider have to be limited to a single subject. Is that correct?
Well, it's interesting you say that. Yes, but there are always caveats. I think it's interesting. Sometimes we've had bills, and some of us think they tend to be very broad in nature. Yeah. And so it depends. Each house, the House and the Senate, have their own attorneys who determine if it fits under that rule.
Right.
And it probably also has to depend on the topic. I mean, for example, healthcare, you could put a lot of things. Yeah.
Correct. So wouldn't it be nice if the federal government operated under something like that, and then we wouldn't have all of this log rolling and pork spending in a $3.5 trillion spending bill that covers everything from A to Z, and we'd have to require that any spending initiative kind of stands on its own rather than being hidden in a bill with a bunch of other stuff.
Right. And we certainly see with the infrastructure discussion, I think we all know what hard infrastructure is, but when it comes to soft infrastructure, maybe that's how they would get around it. It can pretty much mean anything they want it to be, which I believe our elected officials have said that.
Right. So a last question I wanted to ask is, are there any tips or advice you can give our grassroots members that when they meet with legislators that they could be very effective? What are some things that work? What are some things that maybe can be off-putting? And how do you prefer a constituent to interact with you?
Well, that's a great question. I'm actually surprised more people don't reach out. I would say what doesn't work are generic emails or, boilerplate letters that you just sign electronically. Because sometimes you find, I've called some constituents sometimes and they didn't really know what they were signing and didn't realize they'd signed it. What I do think is helpful, which your group did when I first met with Dale Parrish years ago, is we like to know what you want to talk to us about. I like to be prepared. So if there's any information I need to gather, if I don't know about a subject, but also then I understand you're going to be prepared. It's not just going to be an hour-long, complaint session. The other thing is to be flexible. We don't have offices in our home districts, and some people have jobs that they're working to. So be patient and flexible. Sometimes it takes a while, but also when you let us know what you want to talk about, then we're able to be prepared, and we understand too. Be quite frank, you're legit. You have issues and you would like them addressed. We may not be able to answer them all or help you, but it isn't just someone looking to play gotcha or someone who just wants to spend an hour of time to tell us, what a terrible job we're doing or what kind of complaints you have. I mean, that's fine. You can do that, but it's nice to know what exactly are the parameters of our discussion.
We're often told that handwritten letters have more impact than, say, an email or a phone call. Do you find that to be true?
So that can be helpful. If it's a generic email, where it's just a robo sort of thing, our LAs generally, they'll send us one just to show us this is coming. Do you have a reaction? Should I respond? And then they just start counting how many there are. And because most of those people don't expect a response, they may send a written response when you send the same as a robo letter. It doesn't have to be handwritten if you type it or whatever, but they send them to us and we read them. Sometimes it's just, hey, this is how I feel, and there's really no response to it, but that does get through to us. And if it doesn't, then that's on the LA's fault. But yes, I think that's helpful. And sometimes I've gotten letters to my home address. I mean, it's published and it's out there. It's not that I mind that. It's just, I'm not a scatterbrain, but I like to have everything go to the office so then I can keep track. And then if I ask, my LA to look up the information to respond, it's all in the same place. It's just more convenient.
Yeah, very good. So, Liz, that's how our part will go. Obviously, we don't have any viewer questions tonight, but if we do have some, we'll pop them in there. We expect your segment to go perhaps 20 minutes. I haven't been timing this, so I don't know how long we went, but with some viewer questions, we'll be around 20
Well, I didn't start the recording on time here, but I've got we're almost to 9 minutes. Rick, were you timing this at all?
No, I did not. Dale didn't think.
Yeah, I forgot to time too. So I don't know. I think we're like I said, I probably started. I started a little bit late, so we probably got about 10 minutes worth here, at least.
Okay.
So.
So we did 4 questions there. So if we get 3 or 4 viewer questions, we'll be close to that 20-minute.
Right.
And I didn't give any details about that 1123. I mean, I can go into actually explain how it works. And
Okay, that's good.
Some people might know that it had been vetoed and we overrode it. I mean, I'm more than happy to explain all that.
I would prefer to have the material there for 20 minutes. And if we get some viewer questions, then that'll just be a plus. That'll be a bonus for us. but in case we don't get any viewer questions, at least we got the material there to take up that segment. So good job. Good job. I think we did a good job there.
Did that feel all right to you, Liz? Is there anything I should have done
No,
differently?
and I'm going to get the exact language on the balanced budget to make sure I have that too. But I actually think going into detail on 1123, explaining that we're already in recess and can come back and all that, I mean, that'll take up, several minutes, I think. So, but I mean, I'm happy to, touch your glasses or something to say, you can stop talking now.
She's been through this before, I think.
You can say, okay, nobody cares about that. Move on. I get it. I don't mind at all. So, but other than that, I mean, I'm not going to go on and on about, the balanced budget amendment or the Supreme Court packing unless you want to. I think we all kind of feel the same. Yeah.
How about you, Dale? Was there anything you thought we ought to do differently, or did that?
Well, the only thing I was going to mention, that's why I brought Ken up here. Ken, I thought, Liz, could you move back a little bit from your camera?
Oh, okay, like this. I'm just sitting at my dining room table. My husband is actually Zooming with his family now.
Oh, okay.
In the other room. So this is temporary. I'm not going to be sitting.
All right. Yeah.
For me this far away?
Yeah.
I think I start to lean in because I talk and I think you can't hear me. So
yeah, when we're in the view with just you and Paul, you're really up close to the camera.
That's kind of scary. Okay.
No, it's Paul that's scary. So I'm sure you'll be fine come Monday night. So okay, all right. Okay. Well, Ken, I don't need you now. I'm going to put you. Yeah. Okay. All right. So the first segment is done, and now Paul, then you need to thank Senator Brown and turn it over to John, right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, Senator Brown, we really appreciate your time with us. Thank you for coming on and being so forthright with your answers. And again, we appreciate your service.
Thank you. And thanks for all you do. Thanks for having me.
All right. Let's turn it back to John.
Okay. Thank you, Paul. And thanks to Senator Liz Brown. That was a very informative interview that we heard there. Dale, at this point, I'm going to remind people that if they have questions, they can post it if they're watching the live feed on Facebook or YouTube. And then I'm going to say, now I want to introduce I know what I'm going to say. Now I want to introduce Dale Parrish, our COS Indiana State Director. Dale?
Hi, John. Thank you very much. And John, I will take over here for a little while. So I'm going to send you back into the lobby. All right. See you later. Well, good evening, everyone. And in this segment, we want to talk to you, or I want to talk to you, about the various educational resources that we have available to us here in Indiana. Not only here in Indiana, but nationally as well. But I think it's important for everyone to understand the various resources that we have. And we do have quite a few. And you will see here as we move on in this segment, we're going to take one of the resources and feature it in our meeting this evening. And we'll do that on every future roundtable meeting. We'll pick a particular resource that we have and we'll feature it in our presentation. So the first resource that we have here in Indiana, as well as nationally, is our website, and that's conventionofstates.com. You'll hear us make reference to this website numerous times. It just has a wealth of information, not only historical, but news that's happening right now, as well as resources, educational resources, information that you can use to learn more about the Constitution, about Convention of States, and so forth and so on. It's just a very, very great resource. We also use the back end of this resource as the tool that we use to administer our states. So that is our number one resource. Now, our number two resource is the Convention of States University, COSU. Now, this is a resource that we featured in our first monthly roundtable on June 28th. And this is just, we haven't, this wasn't available when I started in Convention of States. We were pretty much on our own to train people that we brought into Convention of States. But this has been a tool that has been developed over the years, over the past 5-6 years, and it's just a fabulous tool that we have available. These are all online courses that are available, and even if you're just a volunteer, certain of these courses are available to you. But if you're in a particular volunteer position, then you have access to more of these courses. So it's just a great tool that we can utilize and gear toward the individual and the job that they're going to be performing for us in Convention of States. Another resource that we have is our YouTube channel, COS Indiana. This is very, very much an educational resource. We have narrated PowerPoints on our YouTube channel. We have recordings of our COS Indiana Live broadcasts, which I'll be talking about very shortly here. And there are recordings of our roundtable meetings. So this meeting tonight, the recording of it will be on our YouTube channel, as well as links to other educational resources. So very, very much an educational tool. Another thing that we have available to us, and this is nationally, this is called the Wiki Page. And the reason while this is a national resource, the reason I put this on here as an Indiana resource is the author of this Wiki Page is from Indiana, is one of our leadership individuals in Indiana, Jerry Rowe. And as a matter of fact, this will be our featured resource on our September roundtable meeting. So Jerry's going to come on and talk to you more about that in September. Another resource that we have is our Patriot Academy certified constitutional coaches. And these are just a few that we have here. We have more in the state. These are individuals that you can meet with. Maybe you have a small group that would like to learn more about our founding documents and learn more about the founding of our country. These are individuals that will meet with you online and provide you with the training and information that you might need and desire. So very, very much a great resource that we have available here. We have 2 podcasts available. The Free to Be Free. This is a podcast that our legislative liaison, Paul Phillips, that you met in segment 1. Paul does this podcast. And the other one is COS Indiana Live. This is a podcast. This, in essence, is the audio portion of our Monday evening broadcast on COS Indiana Live. So both of these are in the form of a podcast that can be used for educational purposes. Our featured resource this evening is our broadcast, COS Indiana Live. And this is a live stream event. As a matter of fact, our roundtable meeting this evening is, in fact, part of COS Indiana Live. We dedicate every 4th Monday to a roundtable meeting. And otherwise, then throughout the month, we're meeting on Monday evenings to live stream for COS Indiana Live. So this is our featured resource this evening. And I'm very, very happy to, since I'm the host on COS Indiana Live, this is something that I do every Monday evening. And we try and cover one of the main things that we try to do in this broadcast, in this live stream, is we like to bring to you leadership individuals from our state. And in this particular year, in 2021, we have accumulated a number of new district captains in our organization. So we've been spending many Monday evenings this year introducing you to new district captains that have come on board in our organization here in Indiana. Now, also, we have some individuals in our organization that we call contributors. We call them COS Indiana Live contributors. And these are individuals that I like to say have strong opinions, or they like to talk about certain topics. So we've created then the COS Indiana Live contributors segment in our Monday evening broadcast. And I would like to present to you one of these segments. They're very brief. I've asked them to give me very brief recordings. And this particular recording is from our Master of Ceremonies this evening, John Ackerman. And John's contributions we call John's Journal. So I want to play one of John's journals to you for this evening.
John Ackerman again for the Convention of States, Indiana. I saw the cutest little cartoon meme the other day. The headline says, "It's the law of common sense." Right under it is a drawing of 4 people sitting in a wagon with 1 person pulling that wagon. Now that might work if there's 1 horse pulling the wagon, but 1 person pulling 4. And then underneath the drawing it says, if too many people enjoy the free ride and not enough people help pull, the wagon isn't going anywhere. Man, is that ever true. And when our society fosters dependence on government for subsistence checks and for housing assistance and so on, now don't get me wrong, there are some people who need it, okay? But when too many people fall into that trap, we have a problem, a society that isn't going anywhere, a wagon that's stuck, maybe stuck in the mud. Think about that. Yeah. And so every able-bodied person needs to get out of that wagon and help to pull on that rope so that we can carry one another's burdens and help those who really need the help, and so fulfill the law of Christ.
All right. Thank you, John. I hope you enjoyed that. John has a number of these contributions that he's provided me. So every Monday evening, I try to offer one up, and I just thought you might find that one interesting. But that's part of the this particular educational resource. Now, another part of this resource is this young lady here in the upper left-hand corner is our super volunteer. I call our super volunteer Debbie Stewart, and I want to bring Debbie on this evening to tell you about what she performs, what she does on COS Indiana Live.
Hi, Dale.
Hi, Debbie. Oh, there you are. Okay, I thought I'd lost you there for a while. Debbie, I like to have you on COS Indiana Live. We try to get you on at least once a month, and I'm going to try and get a better screen here. There you are. We'd like to get you on once a month. Tell everyone what you do when I bring you on COS Indiana Live.
Well, besides give you a hard time,
yes,
that's 2 different things. I teach Michael Ferris's constitutional literacy, and I also do some civics snippet teachings. And so the constitutional literacy by Michael Ferris really is about presenting what our constitutional freedoms are. So we dive down into the 7 articles of the Constitution, and we also dive down into some of the amendments. And as the government begins to infringe on our rights more and more, it's very difficult for Americans to push back when we don't even know what our freedoms are. So this series of lessons teaches us what our rights are. And so we are very much in the know, and then we know what to look for when our government is starting to take some of those rights away. We know how to push back on that. And some of the episodes that we've already covered are things like the powers of Congress, the powers of the president, judicial overreach. We've seen some of that. Abortion rights and religious freedom. Some of the ones we're going to cover in the next couple of months are parental rights, the national debt, and reclaiming our nation. The second part that I teach is what we call like civics lessons, and I really have a passion for people to develop a love and a passion for our country, because we really do live in the most amazing nation in the world. So we're going to learn about all different aspects of our country. And some of those are like our treasured documents. We'll cover the 3 branches of government, the 3 different levels of government, the U.S. military, things like that. And so I alternate. One month I do constitutional literacy, and the next month I do civics.
That's right. That's right. Well, we've gotten a lot of positive responses on your segments, Debbie. So now, for everyone's information, Debbie was a homeschool teacher. Well, I guess you still do that to some extent, don't you? Mm-hmm. But we just felt very fortunate to come across Debbie, and so we can utilize her in our Monday evening broadcast. So, Debbie, thank you very much for coming on. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I think that pretty well. Let's see if I can get my PowerPoint. Yep. So that's our featured resource for this month. That's COS Indiana Live. That's a live stream broadcast that we broadcast through Facebook, our state Facebook page, Convention of States Indiana, and also live streamed to our YouTube channel, COS Indiana. So check us out. Tune in on Monday evenings for our broadcast. And as we've stated before, every 4th Monday, we dedicate the entire broadcast to a roundtable meeting, which we are doing this evening. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to John. And John, take it away.
Okay, well, thanks, Dale. That was very informative, our educational resources. Now we're going to bring on our state leadership team for the I Want to Know segment. And remember, if you have any questions about Convention of States, you can ask them right now by clicking the comment button if you're watching live on Facebook or YouTube. And so here comes our state leadership team. George Ward. Hi, George. Okay.
There you go. I'm unmuted. Okay. Hi, everybody.
Okay. And Gary Harbaugh. Good evening, Gary.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Okay. Ken Kashuba, welcome back.
Thank you, John. Good evening, everybody.
Yeah. And Paul Phillips, you were here a few minutes ago. Welcome back into the room. And Dale. By the way, you didn't have to take yourself away, Dale. You could have just stayed there.
I could have just stayed, couldn't I? Okay.
And we could bring the others on.
All right.
And so if we have any viewer questions, Dale will bring them up right here. And or he'll bring them up as they come in during I Want to Know.
Right.
But barring any or lacking any viewer questions, I'm going to turn to George first and ask for your ideas, George, on why do we even want to call a Convention of States? Why should we do this?
Well, the couple of reasons I can think of right offhand is the founders put that in there. Sorry, the second clause of Article 5. It's kind of a balance of power. You know, they realize that people are people, and there could be a time when the Congress or centralized government could become too tyrannical and wouldn't do anything to rein in their own power. So they gave the same authority to propose amendments as Congress has. When 2/3 of Congress proposes an amendment, it goes off ratification. When 2/3 of the states make an application for a convention, they meet and propose amendments, and it goes out for ratification via the same method. So when things like a balanced budget, term limits that we've been trying to get for 30, 40, 50 years, and nothing happens, well, we've got the power to take care of the job. And that's the primary reason why I believe that we should have a convention of states. And after the first one here, I also believe it should be a regular occurrence. Maybe every 5 years, whatever.
Yeah, and I think it was George Mason who said Congress will never agree to give up any of its power. So we, the people, have a voice through the Convention of States. That's really powerful. Okay, let's see what our next question is. I think it's okay. This one's going to be. Wow, this isn't the order that I was happening.
Oh, right. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay. I've got it now. Ken's going to answer. Are any political leaders or media celebrities supporting the Convention of States? Okay, I'll get that one. Okay, Ken?
Thanks, John. Well, there's quite a long list of respectable people, both in political world as well as media celebrities that back COS because they see the importance of it and the constitutionality of it. So there's a long list of people, starting with a number of governors. You have Governor Ron DeSantis. You've got Governor Mike Huckabee, Governor Bobby Jindal. You've got Governor Greg Abbott. There's a couple of governors there that support this. Getting into the media side, you've got well-known people like Sean Hannity and Mark Levin. You've got some very, very astute and very educated people. You've got Professor Rob Nadelson. I know Debbie mentioned Michael Ferris. Michael Ferris supports this. And then you have other people like Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, Sarah Palin. You've got Senator Marco Rubio. There's just a good list of supporting people. Senator Rand Paul is another one that comes to mind. So, there's just a growing number of people that have supported us for a very long time and just recently coming aboard, but it is growing, and people see the need for the Convention of States in Article 5.
Okay, well, thanks, Ken. So it's not just a bunch of people with pipe dreams floating around in their head. It's some really powerful political leaders and media people are behind this or supporting this thing. That's really encouraging to have that information. Well, our next question, I'm going to throw it to Paul. Hey, Paul, what happens if a bad amendment comes out of convention?
Well, the easy answer there is the same thing if a bad amendment comes out of Congress. So we have to remember that Congress is a perpetual amending convention. At any point, if 2/3 of the House and Senate agree on an amendment proposal, that will go out to the states for ratification. So the Constitution has been amended 27 times, but Congress has actually proposed 33 amendments since our founding. So that means there are 6 amendments that didn't get ratified. And let me give you an example of a bad amendment from Congress that was proposed in 1861. And this amendment would have prohibited the federal government from interfering in the states' rights to slavery. And this amendment was ratified only by 2 states. So basically, it kind of died. And that is the first protection out of a bad amendment coming out of the convention, is it has to be ratified by 3/4 of the states. And if that doesn't happen, it, in a sense, dies on the vine. But what if a bad amendment comes out of Congress and then does get ratified? And we have an example of that. In 1913, the 18th Amendment was ratified, prohibiting alcohol sales. And it took a few years to figure out that was a really bad amendment. So now we have the 21st Amendment, which repealed that amendment. So there is the power to undo a bad amendment should it be ratified, but it first has to pass that hurdle of being ratified. Now, finally, some people might say, well, wait a minute, there are a couple of other bad amendments that have been ratified. The 16th enabling the income tax, the 17th taking appointment of senators away from the state legislatures are 2 candidates there. So we could even fix those bad amendments with a convention of states. by repealing those, should that be agreed to and ratified.
Well, that's interesting, Paul. So in case the convention comes up with a bad amendment, we don't have to worry about it because it still must be ratified by 3/4 of the states.
Correct.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, we have another question, and this one I'm going to pose to Gary Harbaugh. Gary, can we trust the Constitution?
Well, John, can you trust any written document? And it's a fair question. We can trust the Constitution only in the sense that we follow it. So parties enter into contracts all the time, and for the most part, they follow those terms, and there's not a problem. It's when somebody violates the terms of the contract that you run into a problem. And really the reason that we want to have a change in the Constitution is we think there are some things that are kind of being ignored, and we want to address those weaknesses. But we can trust that amendments and amendment process. There have been a number of amendments that have been passed, and the 27 that Paul mentioned, those are being followed. We're not seeing, we changed the date of the inauguration of the president from March to January, and nobody has argued or questioned that since then. And I think when there is an amendment to the Constitution, it particularly, because there's a high hurdle to get that ratified, it gives a great emphasis to the fact that we, the people, have spoken through those who represent us, and we've said we want this changed. And if we don't have a Constitution that we trust, we really don't have a government, and it's every man for himself. And it's important that we have a civilization where we have a Constitution that we follow and we trust.
Yeah, that's very important. Thanks, Gary, for that insight. And we have time for one final question, and it's going to go to Dale, our state director. And the question, Dale, is what is this runaway convention that I've heard of?
Well, John, the quote unquote runaway convention is a concept that our opposition uses all the time, and it's probably the most popular point of opposition that has been used against us, and that is the fear that calling a convention of states could turn into what is called a runaway convention, and the convention goes off on a tangent, possibly rewriting the entire Constitution or throwing out the Constitution, or many of our friends in the Second Amendment movement are fearful that one of the things that will be done will be to abolish the Second Amendment. So these are all fears that have grown over time, and all concluding or calling a runaway convention. Actually, if you go to our YouTube channel, we have a narrated PowerPoint on the YouTube channel that I put together. It's called Firewalls. And you can also refer to our main website, conventionofstates.com, in the resources section, our page. There's information about how to avoid a runaway convention. There are, I like in the PowerPoint that I did, and I won't go into great detail on these, but there's 5 what I call firewalls that would have to be transgressed in order for a convention to turn into a runaway convention. The resolution that all the states agreed to would have to be overturned. The rules that would be set up for the convention would have to be overturned. The commissioners that each state selected, the delegates, would have to go off on their own rather than being controlled by the states. The majority vote, one state per vote, would have to be overturned. And I think the ultimate check on preventing a runaway convention is in fact ratification. So any proposed amendment that would come out of the convention would have to be ratified by 3/4 of the state legislatures, or 38 states. So I think it's been well proven that a runaway convention is just not possible. But that, in fact, is what is used as a fear tactic in opposition of what we're trying to accomplish. So that's where the runaway convention comes from, John.
Wow. Okay. That's really enlightening. Thanks, Dale. Well, and I want to thank all 5 of you for your input and your answers to these important questions. And now, as we move toward the invitation to volunteer for Convention of States, here's an important video. I hope.
Yes.
After the last election, liberty-minded Americans faced a difficult question. What do we do now? Our cities have been ravaged by riots. Calls from the left to defund the police continue unabated, while violent crime and murder rates skyrocket across the country. Joe Biden controls the White House. Sort of. Really, we all know that Joe Biden's no longer in control of his faculties, and others behind the scenes actually control the agenda. Socialists control Congress. Leftists control the deep state. Marxists control our country's schools and universities, and the tech oligarchs are their willing censors and watchful spies. So who has a plan to stop them? Certainly, we're not seeing courage from Capitol Hill to stand up to the Democrats and their woke mob. The good news is that we do have a plan to stop them. This is the only plan that bypasses Biden and Congress to save the republic. And this plan brings the fight to where we, the people, have a political advantage. While many Americans were disappointed in the outcome of this election at the presidential level, liberty-minded state legislators quietly swept to enormous victories. Now's the time to use this to our advantage and draw the fight for our liberties out of the swamp and into the battlefield where we, the people, have the advantage, in the states. This plan to call a convention of states can propose constitutional amendments that prohibit Congress from adding justices to the Supreme Court or states to the Union. This plan can secure our Second Amendment rights. It can eliminate the woke Department of Education, and it can stop the federal government from taking over the state election process. You need to know that this plan's underway already, and it's working. Join 5 million supporters and citizen activists, along with my friends Mark Levin, Rand Paul, Ben Shapiro, Glenn Beck, Mike Huckabee, Sean Hannity, and many, many more.
The Convention of States, ultimately, fundamentally, the way to secure our republic.
Washington is so broken it may not be fixable, and that the only way you'll truly get reform is by having a convention where people decide, we need to have term limits, or we have to have a balanced budget amendment.
I have endorsed it, and I believe very strongly that it's the only way we're ever going to get a balanced budget amendment. It's the only way we're ever going to be able to bring some real reform to our system.
I mean, I've been a longtime supporter of the Convention of States and to reestablish the sort of guiding principles of the Constitution.
You have a chance of really saving the republic. I am all in. ConventionofStates.com.
And now I'm joining Convention of States to make this happen. So join me in this constitutional revolution at ConventionofStates.com. They have a petition. Go sign it today.
Support the only plan that bypasses Biden and Congress to save the republic. Sign the petition at ConventionofStates.com.
To do that, if you're not one of those 5 million supporters, please join Convention of States right now by visiting our website, ConventionofStates.com. Once you get there, you can sign our petition. You see it right there. You fill out your name and your contact information, and you have signed the petition. Now, if you really want to help make a difference, click the Take Action button on the menu bar at the top of your screen, and then click Become a Leader. There, you can apply for a leadership position. You can volunteer to help make this thing happen. Now is the time to visit ConventionofStates.com, click Take Action, and help us make history. This brings us to the end of this month's roundtable. So mark your calendar. You don't want to miss our next roundtable on the 4th Monday of September. That will be September 27th at 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm John Ackerman for COS Indiana Roundtable.
Well, that's it, folks. Let me bring everybody up here, see what you think. Well, Senator Brown, glad you stuck with us tonight.
Everybody stayed with us. Woohoo!
Yeah. So, what do y'all think? Any what, George?
I was thinking of this earlier, but I think Paul brought it up in one of the question and answer periods. Is this an okay question, Liz? Where you stand on the repeal of the 17th Amendment as a state legislature and having the authority